How's it going? I'm Anthony, and these are stories of my life. For those of you just joining us for the first time, these videos are a cognitive therapy tool for me. I've taken some head injuries over the years, my memory has been failing me, and the doctors have suggested that I make these videos to preserve the memories I still have, as well as to inspire some of you all who are involved in these events to provide me with details I may have lost, or otherwise remind me of events I've completely forgotten. In which case then I can either remake an old video with the new details like I am now, or make a whole new video for you and kind of go from there. So I'm sure you get the idea. At any rate, building off of the last video, the events of this one take place in 1991. Again, I was 13 years old. It was my freshman year at Riverside Polytechnic High School in Riverside, California. I was living with my father in a one-bedroom apartment at Quail Creek Apartments off of Arlington Avenue in Horace. And yeah, just kind of doing my thing. You know, if you haven't seen the last videos to kind of get an idea of where I was mentally, please do. To help you understand why I did some of the stupid crap that I did. But yeah, you'll get it. At any rate, right around this time, I was getting close to another friend of mine named Nathan Gray. Now, Nathan, I don't know when him and I met. I can't for the life of me remember when. I imagine it had to be sometime in elementary school, because he lived right by Victoria Elementary, which is where I went. And so him and I would have known each other at Matthew Gage Middle School for 7th grade. I know him and I were on the same soccer team on at least 2, maybe 3 occasions. And yeah, so it was right around this time him and I became closer, you know. Now, as far as where he lived in relation to my house, if you were to go up Horace towards Lincoln and actually get to Lincoln, make a left at Lincoln, go, 5-6 blocks, then you come to a street named Branna. I believe it was Branna. And you make a right on Branna. It's a cul-de-sac. His house would have been like the 5th, maybe 6th on the left-hand side. And so it wasn't far, but he also wasn't close. But it was close enough to walk. You know, it wasn't that bad. And Nathan, to give you some background, had an older sister, can't remember her name, had a younger sister named Tiffany. Parents were good people. They were very religious. They used to go to church all the time. I can't remember the name of the church now. It was off of Orange and 91. Yeah, I can't remember the name now. Yeah. And Dad, I believe, was either probation officer or parole officer, something to that effect. So I know they were strict. Now, Nathan being the middle child and then having an older sister, younger sister, I imagine they were real strict on him. But he suffered from your stereotypical middle child syndrome. And he was just extremely rebellious and just didn't care, you know. And I don't know, he might have had some other issues that I didn't know about, but he also had this almost like a suicidal ideation, kind of the way I did. And I know why I did. If you've watched the last videos, you'll understand why I did, and it makes sense. But I never understood why he did. I get the rebelliousness, because I have at least 2 other groups of friends, Jim, Joe, Jeff, and then Scott, Brett, Carson, where the middle child had that same syndrome, you know, where they were rebellious types. And so that was classic. I understood that, but I didn't get that other part. So there's something in there I missed, and who knows, maybe I'll find out one day, but otherwise I don't know. But anyway, so Nathan was apt to doing crazy stuff, and he was probably worse than I was, to be completely honest. And that's why I said I don't know why. But him and I used to do a lot of crazy things, like stealing things from Target. You know, that was one. And we used to do it all the time. It was like a game for us. And we'd want to see who could steal the craziest things and get away with it. And the other thing we used to do is we would play chicken with trains. Now, those of you that grew up in that area, there's some train tracks that crossed Arlington Avenue. And it came right by the bowling alley there, went right over the road. And at the time, it used to have those little things that go down and just cars stop. Now there's a bridge, so you don't have to worry about that. But back then, if we were in that area walking around and we heard a train coming, I kid you not, we would actually try to run to the tracks to get across the tracks before the train came. literally a game of chicken with a train. Well, obviously the train's not going to stop, so we had to either win or lose. You know, the train was not going to stop. And I kid you not, we did this dozens of times. I can even remember slowing down on some occasions because I knew I was going to beat the train, and I wanted to make it a close race. And I think I did it more than Nathan did. So when it came to that regard, I was a little crazier than he was. But, you know, that's how it goes. But, I mean, that kind of gives you an idea. I didn't mind dying. You know, I was completely okay with getting hit by a train and getting killed because I had a measure of control in the whole scenario. I put myself in that scenario. And like I said, we did this a lot. And I realize now how absolutely stupid it was. But back then, with the way my mentality was, that was the way things were. So what else I can remember about Nathan is I know Nathan for a time dated Jim's cousin Hope. Beyond that, I know that him and I on an occasion had a slingshot, and we would shoot windows out. We used to shoot street lights out with a slingshot. We'd order pizzas from the pizza man and give a bunk address and just laugh about it, and stupid things like that. One other event that occurred is at the top of Jim's Street at Haverhill Court. I was walking with Nathan, and we were coming down the alley there from Victoria Elementary School, and Nathan whipped out I can't remember if it was a lighter or matches, but there was this bush that was right there, and Nathan lit the bush on fire. And I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "Oh, it's pampas grass. It burns fast." And he lit it on fire, and it started to burn, and he took off running. And I immediately just tried to put this thing out, you know, throwing sand on it, stomping on it, and trying to figure out how I could put it out, but it wouldn't go out, and it just started blazing, and I freaked out. It was one of those times that I didn't hold my cool. But anyway, I started running down the road behind him, and I finally catch up to him. And I guess somebody had seen us. A guy by the name of Greg had seen us in his car driving by, running down the street. But anyway, we get to my dad's house, and my dad, lucky for us, was asleep on the couch. And so we get in there, and eventually we wake my dad up and make it seem like we've been home this whole time. Well, at some point, the fire department investigator ends up calling and trying to figure out what happened with this house and this bush that caught fire. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, but there were people obviously in the house. So apparently this guy Greg had talked to the fire investigator and said that he saw us running down the road, so he was certain it was us. But what we were lucky with was my dad being asleep. We told my dad that we'd been home the whole time, so that's what he told the fire investigators. So now the fire investigators said, "Well, shit, we can't charge them. They got an alibi, they got a witness, and whatever else." So we got off of that one pretty luckily. But anyway, you know, still not proud of that whole scenario. I can remember being at Jim's house sometime after that, and the owner of the house, the guy, he ended up confronting me about that house, you know, about the fire that happened out front, and flipped out on me about it, and threatened me. And I'm trying to explain to him, like, dude, it wasn't me. But he flipped out on me and said, "You come back here when you're 18, and you know, we'll fight about it right here on the street." And I said, "Okay." So sure enough, when I turned 18, I showed up at the house and knocked on his door, but they had moved. So whatever. I wasn't going to fight with him. I was just going to say, "Look, I'm here. Now will you listen to me about what happened?" But he had moved, so didn't get the chance. Anyway, so Nathan, one day, him and I are at his house, and this is really the story I wanted to get to for this video. Him and I are at his house. I show up there, and the reason I went over there is I was going to go to church with his family and him, because there was this girl at his church that I really liked, because I would go with them on an occasion, and her name was Selena Signor, and I liked her, she liked me, and you know, that was my way of seeing her. So I was going to go to church with him. It was a Wednesday night, and I show up at Nathan's house, and Nathan is high out of his mind. Like, he's been smoking weed and maybe some other things. I have no idea. But anyway, I get there. His mom's there. Dad's not there. And Nathan's got his dad's gun. And now I knew about this gun because Nathan had showed it to me one time when I was there in his dad's drawer. And when he had showed it to me, it was completely taken apart. Screws, everything. It wasn't just field stripped. Like, it was completely taken apart. And Nathan had put it back together. And all I remember about it was that it was a 380. And I don't remember the type, at this point. But he was sitting there playing with his dad's gun. And he loaded it up, had some hollow point bullets in it. It looked like, now that I think about it, it reminded me of like Hydra-Shoks. But he had those loaded in there. And he pulled the hammer back and put the safety on. And then he aims it at my head. Now, I wasn't afraid at all, Like, okay, so what are you going to do? And in my head, I'm thinking, it's probably like a 1911. If you put the safety on, hammer's supposed to be back. You pull the trigger, it's not going to do anything because that's how 1911 works. And I knew guns. My dad had been taking me shooting for years. I think I started shooting when I was like 5, maybe 6 years old. So I didn't think anything of it. 1, I wasn't afraid to die, but 2, I didn't think it would actually fire. So Nathan's high, he's got it loaded, hammer back. And he says, "Oh, are you afraid?" And I said, "No." And he said, "You know what would happen if I pulled the trigger?" I said, "Nothing." He goes, "Yeah, safety's on." And I said, "Yeah." And then it was at that moment, some weird feeling came over me. Like, I don't know what it was. And then all of a sudden, it was like something whispered in my ear. And I jumped. I was like, shit, moved. And me jumping caused Nathan to jump. And so he moved as well. And the gun fired. Now, it was still aimed at my face when both of us jumped. And I'm not kidding. Everything went into slow motion. But when the gun went off, like, you can actually see, I could see straight down the barrel. The gun went off and there was this brilliant flash. The whole rest of the room went dark. And I could actually watch this bullet coming out of the barrel in slow motion towards my face. I could see it. And it was going so slow. It was ridiculous. And I could watch the flames coming out around behind it. And it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as it's coming at my face. And I can't move fast enough. I can't move. It's not like I had super speed or anything, but my brain was processing this so fast, it looked like slow motion. And the bullet just comes and goes right by my face. And I think it even may have left a burn mark on the side of my face, and I think I even have maybe a little notch in my ear or something. But anyway, it was right by. And it surprised the crap out of me, because the moment it went right by, all of a sudden everything sped right back up. The room came back. It was no longer dark. But that weird slow motion experience felt like it lasted for a good 10 seconds or so. And then when it went by, I was like, what the frick just happened, And then Nathan's in shock, mouth dropped to the floor, eyes as big as dinner plates, and he couldn't believe it. And then I hear this hissing sound, and I have no idea what this hissing sound is. I'm like, what the hell is that? And Nathan throws the gun down underneath his pillow and then stands up, starts freaking out. And all of a sudden, Nathan's mom knocks on the door, trying to figure out, what was going on. And Nathan goes running out of the room. And so now I'm immediately like, well, shit, Nathan's in trouble now. So I'm trying to figure out how we can get away with this, looking at the window, see if maybe there's a hole in it. Maybe I can see somebody shot at us from outside, but there's no holes in the screen. I finally okay, Nathan's screwed, Fired a gun in the house, and he's in trouble. And so I go walking out of his room now to see Nathan explaining what happened to his mom. And apparently that hissing sound I was hearing, the bullet had went into the air conditioning system, and now Freon was spraying everywhere inside where the air conditioner was. And Nathan tells his mom what happened, and she's on the phone. She hangs up the phone, starts freaking out. Oh my God! Nathan, go to your room. No, wait. Don't go to your room. Go to the bathroom. Anthony, go home now. And I was like, okay. And I started to walk out of the room. Now, it was at this moment that I ran into another problem. The gun had been so close to my face, quite literally 2, maybe 3 feet away, that when that bullet went by my head, the thing that came with it, or the things that came with it, was burning gunpowder. So now I end up with this gunpowder stippling in my face and burning powder that hit me in the eyes. So my vision immediately just goes away. Like, everything just goes white. I can't see anything. It's gone. So I'm standing outside of Nathan's front door, blind. Completely blind. Well, not completely. I could still see variations of light, but other than that, they had no details, 0 detail at all, just variations of light. And so my eyes were burning, my face was burning, and I couldn't see. I had water, tears in my eyes from the pain. And so now I'm standing outside this door like, okay, how do I get home? Do I go back in and ask for a ride? Because obviously that's not going to work out well. And I hear his mom just screaming and yelling at him inside the house. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to ask for a ride. I'll figure out how to get home on my own. So I walk out towards the sidewalk, and now I got to figure out how to walk home. So I realize I get to the sidewalk, so I know I got to turn right to get back to Lincoln. But I figure, you know what? I'm going to keep walking past the sidewalk, get down to the curb. So I get down to the curb. I put my right foot against the curb. And I figure if I keep my right foot in that little gutter right there by the curb, I can feel that, and I can make it to Lincoln. So I'm walking. Can't see anything, right? And it's probably twilight hours at this point, because we're getting into November, December, and it's getting dark pretty early. And but I'm seeing the street lights, so I'm counting street lights because I can see the light from it. And finally, I get to Lincoln. And again, it's twilight hours, so not every car going by has their lights on, but I've got to listen for the cars coming. And it was the weirdest thing, because now that my vision is gone, my sense of hearing, my sense of smell, my sense of touch just went crazy. I could hear everything. Like, I can hear birds flapping around, so in such detail, it was crazy. I could feel the wind as cars went by. I could feel the cars going by. My sense of smell was a lot better. I could probably even taste better if I really had something to eat, but I didn't, But anyway, my senses just enhanced. So now I'm sitting there like, okay, how do I cross Lincoln? Because this road's busy. So finally, I just got to listen. So I just started listening, and once I felt like there was no cars coming one direction, I started walking across, and I got to the midway point, what I felt was the midway point, and another car went by that actually had their lights on, and then I managed to get across the road. So now I keep walking down, I believe it's Branna, and I'm using the same foot against the curb method to get down the road until I get to a alleyway that leads from there up into Victoria Elementary. So I get to where I felt the alley was. I walked back up on the sidewalk, felt around, found the alley, walked up the alley, got up onto the school, or into the school area, the playground. I know to turn left, and there was this little drainage ditch. So as long as I knew if I stayed in the drainage ditch, I could follow it to the other alley, which took me down Haverhill Court to Jim's house. So I followed the drainage ditch, and then when I felt like I was in the right place, then I stopped and I felt around, found the alleyway for there, but the gate was closed and locked. I don't know why one was locked and the other one wasn't, but that's how it was. So I ended up having to jump that gate and got over it. And then I start walking down Haverhill. Well, I get to the sidewalk and again use the curb method, but now with my left foot, so I can go around the road until I get to what I felt was Jim's house, and I was counting the lights until I got to what I felt was Jim's, and sure enough, it was. So I walk up to the door, and I either knocked or I rang the doorbell, can't remember which. But anyway, I could tell the front door was open, but the screen was closed. And finally, I think it was Joe came to the door first, and He's like, hey, what's up, Tone Lope? I said, hey, dude, is Jim here? And he's like, yeah, hold on. And he goes and gets Jim. And sure enough, Jim comes to the door. He's like, hey, what's up, man? I said, hey, dude, let me inside. He says, you all right? You know? And it's like, dude, your face is all fucked up. And I was like, just let me inside. I got to tell you something. So he lets me in. I was like, oh, by the way, I'm blind. I can't see shit. He said, what happened? I was like, just get me into your room. So he walks me into his room, which is right by the front door. So we get into his room, and I explained to him everything that happened. He's like, dude, like, you can't see anything? I was like, no, I can see light, but I can't see shit other than that. And he's like, dude, your face is burned like crazy. So I had, gunpowder burns all over my face. Finally, he's like, I gotta go tell my mom, and I guess either his mom's walking by or he went and got her. I don't remember now. But anyway, he finally explains to his mom what happened. His mom takes me into the bathroom, ends up cleaning up my face and washing out my eyes and whatever else. And I don't know if I really told her that I couldn't see anything. I think I played it off maybe that I could. I don't remember now. But, she ended up cleaning me up. And at that point, she made the decision that Jim is not hanging out with Nathan ever again. And that I'm not either if I'm planning on hanging out with Jim. I was like, I'm completely okay with that. So after I get cleaned up there, I finally have to walk home. And, Jim was going to walk me home, but I don't worry about it. I'll get home the same way. I ended up getting home, crossing Arlington. Fortunately, there they had crosswalks, so it made it easier. And, use the same methods to get there. And I finally have to walk in, and I see my dad. Well, still blind. Now I got to tell my dad what happened. And what made it worse was that we were coming up on Christmas, and I had been asking my dad for a pellet rifle. And my dad had bought me a pellet rifle. He just obviously hadn't given it to me yet. But my dad's biggest thing was gun safety, gun safety, gun safety, gun safety. And so now this happens. And so I tell my dad what happened as soon as I got home. And I said, you know what, Dad? I said, if you don't want to give me a pellet rifle, I understand. Yeah, I totally get it. And, that was it. Nathan and I never hung out again. If we saw each other, it might have been in passing, but it was a crappy scenario. But what was crazy about it was it kind of had threw me for a loop because I almost died. Like, that was a real legit near-death experience that I had no control over. And that threw me for a loop. Like, me running in front of a train, playing chicken with a train was one thing because I had control over that event. But this one I did not. So I was like, whoa, that was a shocker to me. I still wasn't afraid or really freaked out. It was just like a holy cow. And I can remember after that, I saw things a little bit different. Things had more detail to me once my vision eventually came back. Everything had more detail, textures, things like that. I was noticing a lot of things that I'd never really noticed before. It was like that enhancement of the senses stuck around a little bit. Maybe not as crazy as it was, but it stuck around, I don't know what else to say. But yeah, a near-death experience like that will have a profound effect on you as a person. And I don't know how different it was with me because of the mentality I had. If I had a different mentality where I wanted to live, it could have been even more profound, but that's how it goes. So anyway, thank you for watching. I know it's a little bit longer video this time, but it is what it is. So I appreciate your time. Have a good one.